Hi, I'm Vicky Flynn. I'm the Assemblywoman in District 13 here in Monmouth County, and here is my year-end report as we look forward to 2023. Soon after being sworn in January of this year, I hit the ground running developing my legislative strategy. A lot of that was informed by the campaign with Assemblyman Jerry Schaffenberger and Senator Declan O'Scanlan. We talked a lot to our residents in Monmouth County, and we knew what you wanted us to accomplish, what the state and what kind of impact the pandemic would have on local municipalities and what the state could do to help minimize that impact on our schools, on our resources, and that's how we started out 2022. We also met with a number of interest groups here in my office as soon as we opened up. And the information that was shared with us was quite startling. Again, constituents were very concerned about how we could emerge from the pandemic stronger. But a lot of the information shared with us was sobering. As we move forward in 2023, we need to focus on ensuring that the federal dollars that were given to the state of New Jersey is distributed to our school districts throughout the state, and especially here in Monmouth County. I started with working with our new people that joined our caucus and have developed very strong relationships with them. I also had the privilege of traveling to Ireland in April with a legislative caucus of Irish American legislators. The first thing that struck me about Ireland is how well they are managing post-pandemic. They did have some of the strictest lockdowns during the pandemic, but their economy right now is booming. And that's something we want to replicate here in New Jersey as well. One of the main issues brought to my attention in the earlier part of 2022 was car thefts. I did check in with our law enforcement officials, our county sheriff, and the numbers were staggering. Car thefts were on the rise, and there was something that we needed to do. Assemblyman Schaffenberger and I wrote a letter to the Attorney General in April and asked him to kindly revise those Attorney General guidelines holding back local law enforcement from addressing car thefts in their communities. I worked with local law enforcement officials to give me advice as to what needed to be done. I'm proud to report that at one of the last Law and Public Safety Committee meetings in the Assembly, one of the bills and part of Jerry's and mine's bill package was passed. So we really need to get this car theft legislation, the bill package that I drafted, passed in 2023. A number of the bills that are intended to restrict legal gun ownership come through the Judiciary Committee. I sit on the Judiciary Committee. They're trying to restrict the right of law-abiding citizens to exercise their Second Amendment right. I present to the sponsor of the bill questions and say, how is this constitutional? When I clearly know it's going to be subject to close scrutiny when it gets to the court level. We do the work necessary to try to prevent those type of restrictions going forward. Monmouth County can also count on me for standing up on the Assembly floor and arguing in favor of legislation that benefits the students here in Monmouth County. When I'm hearing information that demonstrates that kids as young as 11 or 12 are considering suicide at rates that they never heard before. I argued in favor of amending that law to allow for that $45 million to be earmarked for mental health needs of our students. I was shot down on that by the majority party. We need to make mental health a priority for our students. And I know in 2023, we're going to double down on that. One of my priorities in 2022, the learning loss that has occurred with our students that are presently in our schools right now. 60% of our seniors, presently seniors in our schools, are not proficient in English and language arts. And more than 50% are not proficient in math. What that means is they're not graduation ready. And I can't sit by and let that happen. And I won't sit by and let that happen. I will continue to shine a light on this and ask my fellow colleagues in the legislature to make sure that this is a priority in 2023. Another issue that came to our attention deals with the increases to the state health benefits program. Many of our local municipalities and school boards might utilize the state health benefits program to provide health insurance to their employees. Unfortunately, under the dark of night, it appeared that those rates were going to 20% in 1 year alone. How can our towns, how can our local school districts deal with that with other rising costs? As soon as we heard about it, both Jerry Scharfenberg and I wrote to the state and said, you have to do something. We have federal dollars that have been earmarked for New Jersey to use for pandemic recovery, and this is one way they can do that. There's a lot of legislation being proposed to look further into that issue, but right now we wanted to make sure our taxpayers' interests were looked after, and we sounded the alarm quite early in the process on that. Our office has also been really busy and active all year addressing our constituents' needs. During the year, we ran a baby formula drive. We were able to connect people who had baby formula just sitting at home and not being used with those parents who needed it right away. Whether it deals with unemployment, utility costs, as well as dealing with the DMV. We also are able to provide connections to some of the institutions throughout the county and the state that can help support you if you're going through a tough time. We also have an issue dealing, which we call the Penalty Box Act, which has been given and granted bipartisan support. I'm really proud of this legislation, which is intended to focus with poor adult behavior, both from the sidelines. That needs to stop. It's a national concern. I'm happy to be the prime sponsor on that. We're also going to continue to advocate for the use of those federal dollars that have been earmarked for New Jersey to address pandemic recovery. Those dollars can be used to deal with some of the sharp state funding cuts that some of our schools had to address. It could also address the issues associated with the unanticipated increase in health insurance that the state has imposed on so many of our local municipalities and school districts. We're doing everything we can to represent your interest in Monmouth County and intend to do so in 2023. Please continue to reach out. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter, and you could also email or call our offices. We think 2023 could be brighter. We hope it will be brighter, and we will do everything we can to make sure the interests of Monmouth County are well represented in Trent. And thank you again for all of your support.